It's actually a very common thing in marketing where people are obsessed with what has historically worked, not what's working today or how it's working today, and then they're so infatuated with what's going to work. So people, either they're living in the past and they're prehistoric, or they're jumping way too far in advance instead of understanding what's working today, what's underpriced today, where is attention today.
Yeah.
Welcome to Seriously Social, the podcast where we talk about everything in the world of social media marketing. My name is Keith. I'm the CEO of Sociallyin, a social-first agency. I'll pass it to my co-host, Koshal.
My name's Koshal, like social. I'm Keith's business partner, bringing to you the latest around social media strategy and insights. We got a jam-packed episode today. We're going to go ahead and pass it over to Nisha. Let's run it.
All right, I'm Nisha. I'm our creative director. Been here a long time, ready to get into it. Today we're going to be talking about social ROI. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's being able to take a look at the actual results brought to you by your social media efforts, right? It's a lot more than likes. It's a lot more than impressions. It's numbers, it's sales, it's traffic in your store. So Keith, why don't you kind of kick us off? Tell us a little bit about the evolution. How did it all start? Social is still something that's like relatively new in our world.
So I mean, look, everyone that works in social media kind of knows what I'm talking about, but every executive wants to see what the impact of social media is. And it's changed over the course of history. So like when social media first started, like between 2007, MySpace era, to early days of Facebook, 2009, 2010, it was all about vanity metrics. So between 2007 and 2015, it was all about vanity. Likes, comments,
shares,
follows, different things like that. And then something switched in 2016 where people started to really understand how social media could drive revenue and ROI at the end of the day, leads, revenue, whatever. So between 2016 and 2020, that's kind of like the golden era of performance marketing. Because you were able to track conversions, you're able to install cookies on your website, you're able to really see the entire funnel, and you're able to see the impact of all your marketing efforts. And then something completely changed in 2021, I believe, 2020, 2021, whatever, where a lot of the big companies like Google Chrome, GDPR, they introduced these new rules where you have to, number one, outline that, hey, I'm about to install a cookie on your site. Okay. A lot of companies like Apple removed tracking, and there was this whole debacle around the cookie era, right? And then tracking got really, really hard in between that time.
So maybe take one step back and just for any viewers who don't exactly understand pixels to explain what does that mean to have a pixel on your page, and what data is that actually bringing you?
I can actually jump into that. So to Keith's point before, when everybody was focused on social around the vanity metrics, it was whatever we're doing to increase those core numbers. How many people are following us, how many people are liking us, but nobody could understand how is this impacting the bottom line, even if people understood it or didn't understand that it was doing that. When it did change into tracking, this is when performance marketing, meaning running ads, became the prime of social media. A lot of people called it pay to play, if you remember. So if you were spending money on your campaign, on your social media posts, on the content that was going out, you could see return by implementing this tracking pixels, which were just snippet of codes that you put on the website, and they would show you different actions. Maybe your action was how many people filled out a form. Maybe your action was how many people purchased this product or this subscription. So you were able to actually track that through these pixels that were on the website. All the core platforms had it, Meta, TikTok as it rolled out integrated it, X, LinkedIn, etc. All of these had these tracking pixels that you could add on your website. So, and then influencers was another big thing. So then adding trackable links to influencers. So all of these links, the pixels, what they were showing then was, is the actual creative, is the actual social media that we're creating producing the end result we're looking for.
Right. So to be clear, we're adding these trackable links to the actual post.
That's right.
And then from that post, you're able to determine what action was taken from someone on that.
And it's not just post, it's also on your website.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you click, let's say on the link that's in the post to the website, you're on it, what are you doing?
Right.
People would love to know that information. These pixels allowed it so people knew what was going on. Were they looking at certain pages? Were they taking actions like adding a product to the cart?
Right.
Were they adding their information but then leaving? So those are different intent points, so they were tracking the intent points of their users.
Right. So then beyond tracking, what's kind of like what comes next after that as far as the evolution of social ROI and what it is now? Because it's a little bit more than pay to play.
It is now.
Yeah.
But today it's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, so in 2025, tracking has gotten to a point where it's a lot more sophisticated. So marketers are now able to not fully see the entire journey because there's still like GDPR rules, there's still rules around cookies.
Yeah.
A lot of people have ad blockers on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still muddy waters, but it has gotten a lot more advanced, especially with the rollout of GA4, where you're able to track the entire customer journey, especially using UTM parameters within your links. A lot of people are now opting in to allowing Apple devices to track them just because it provides a much more personalized experience at the end of the day. So I envision a lot of things will continue to change going into 2026, 2027. So the whole tracking landscape and showing ROI, marketers are going to have to get creative with how they ultimately do that.
Yeah. This is a little bit of an outside question, but when you were starting Sociallyin, did you find it difficult for people to take you seriously when you were like, we're doing social media marketing? Because when I was first entering the space, not too long after you started Sociallyin, I remember just even going into the field and saying, this is what my career is going to be. People didn't take that seriously. People didn't see the value in it. People didn't understand how that correlated to actually making money.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there were some brands who were on the forefront.
Yeah.
So like Dick's Sporting Goods, one of our early accounts. They were like on the forefront of what was working, but even then the budgets that the enterprise were allocating towards social were a fraction of what it is today versus now every enterprise client wants to be on social. They want to have a sound social strategy. They're investing in tools, they're investing in production. So yeah, I mean back in 2011, our name wasn't very well known, so we were working with small businesses who tend to have a small budget to begin with, and then you're introducing something new to them, where they might be spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on Google search, and it's producing like amazing value, and then now you're introducing this new thing and saying, hey, take some of that Google budget and put it into social. So I wouldn't necessarily say they weren't taking it seriously. I think it was something new that, people tend to get late to the bandwagon, always, right? Like LinkedIn now, for example, is popping off. It's too late now, right?
Right.
The time for LinkedIn was like 2017 to 2022 maybe, but now everyone's like, oh, let's get on LinkedIn, and that's just kind of how the herd moves. And I think that was the issue was in 2011, not everyone was doing social media, so the people who did invest in it, they were kind of early to the game.
Yeah, it's actually a very common thing in marketing where people are obsessed with what has historically worked, not what's working today or how it's working today, and then they're so infatuated with what's going to work. So people, either they're living in the past and they're prehistoric, or they're jumping way too far in advance instead of understanding what's working today, what's underpriced today, where is attention today.
Yeah. Well, and I think there are a lot of different parties involved, right? Especially when it comes to the marketing. There are creatives, there are, CMOs, there are marketing directors, and then there are social specific managers, and they get it. But then when we go all the way up to the CEO and you have to show him or her, like, hey, this is working.
Right.
We need even more budget. We want to hire this influencer, and you have to explain to them, what is actually going to come of that. Like, what do you think execs are looking for? What are the things that we need to show them to be able to say, hey, there is value in social, and this is how it's going to work?
It boils down to the objective, right? So we have some executives that we work with their main outcome is to get qualified applicants to their hiring.
Right, okay.
They want to use social to find the best talent, they want to showcase the culture,
So
they want to
recruiting.
showcase the office, recruiting. Other executives, which most of them fall in this category, are going to care about bottom line impact, right? And bottom line impact looks different in multiple ways, right? For an e-commerce business, it's going to be purchases on the website.
Right.
For a retail store, it's going to be how many people walk through the doors. For a B2B business, a SaaS business, it's going to be how many demos booked, how many leads generated. But at the end of the day, the executives, who are tasked to make the company profitable for their shareholders, are going to care about what's the revenue lift on social. Now, there are other metrics that Koshal can probably talk about that are equally as important, maybe not as equally as important as revenue, because that's the number one thing. Without revenue, you can't be in business.
Right.
But really close second of different metrics that are important, which maybe you can touch on some.
Yeah, a few things. One, on the point of bottom line revenue, I'll come back to that actually because there's a core topic there, especially to your question of what should marketers be telling upper leadership or
Right.
leaders of these Fortune 5000s. But certain things that are really impactful to measures, even in today, if you're not thinking about bottom line revenue, is the lifetime value of customers, because the whole purpose of social media is the multiple touch points,
Yeah.
the reach, the frequency, the way that the content performs, and how does that impact in the life scale of that customer or your prospect. Because it's important to understand that lifetime value, you can't just attribute one social media post or one
Right.
campaign to what the actual outcome is. That's the first one. The second one is the conversion rates. So there different types of conversions, right? Sometimes you can't track bottom line revenue impact. Perfect example, you may be somebody who's in a retail store, you don't have any online, you have an online presence, you don't sell anything online. How do you understand what impact social media is playing on your sales inside the stores?
Right.
Yeah, to that point really quickly, because I talk to prospects all the time that have retail location. I just talked to one person, they have 11 different locations. They have no e-commerce presence, and they ask me, like, how do we track ROI from social media? And a lot of retail brands don't know this, but this is how you do it. On Meta, there's specifically offline conversion tracking.
Okay.
So if you're a retailer and you're capturing customer data, phone number, email address at the physical location, we can take that information, we can re-upload it into Meta, and then we can measure if or track if Meta has shown any of these people an ad in the past. And then we can kind of correlate that and say, okay, well, this person saw our ad, 2-3 times, and then they ended up in the store
Right.
on this day.
That's right.
So offline conversion tracking is a feature that a lot of retailers don't know about, and then they can start taking advantage of.
That's definitely relatively new, right?
No,
No.
offline conversion
No,
tracking has been
so,
around.
so the problem with is not a problem. This is technology exists that you can get very granular
Okay.
with going back to tracking. The issue is the complication of the setup or the resources to set something of that nature, specifically with retail stores, right?
Right.
So to Keith's point, how many are actually going back and tracking email and information and gathering that
Yeah.
and being able to come back and tie it back to what they're doing on the ad side? Not many organizations, I would say, are equipped that way. What you can do, though, going back to conversion, is different touch points. So if you see what is the closest intent point digitally that you can track to an actual purchase, if that's your goal, is what you measure for. And if you can see through your social media effort the correlation, maybe in a month, 3 months, 6 month, a year time span, how that correlates that back down to in-store sales, because you'll get those reports
Yeah.
as well. Most of the time, if you're doing social well, you'll see the correlation is similar to upticks you see on social media.
Right.
So tracking the closest touch point that you can touch, then comes the first party data, which is the big thing nowadays. Because you can't rely on the third party tracking as much, what are ways that you can get first party data, whether that's email lists, going back to getting those offline conversions, tracking them, reward programs, so then you can figure out more information about the users through different touch
Right.
points. So first party data is where it's leaning, but there's direct correlation from certain social media metrics like conversion, like engagement. If you see engagement going up, I can promise you it has an impact on your brand, whether you
course.
can measure that or not.
Right.
So
Yeah. And then I also see it as like direct tracking and then indirect tracking, right? So for some of our enterprise clients, they have multi-6, maybe even 7-figure level contracts. And yeah, people aren't purchasing those on a whim, but the content that they're consuming from that brand on social is influencing the purchase
course, yeah.
decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It might not even influence them, it might inform them about a solution that we provide
Right.
that they don't know about. So I would consider that indirect versus kind of what we've been talking about, which is direct, like measure the return on ad spend,
Right.
measure the cost per lead, measure, whatever other metric that you can look at.
Mhm.
But there are definitely huge areas of indirect measurement. So I'm curious, how are brands doing indirect measurement?
It's a good question. Before we get into the answer, 81% of consumers have made impulse purchases driven by social media. 13% of those purchases happen directly on social. We talked about that in
Yeah.
one of our previous episodes. And that is rising to 50% among Gen Z, which is obviously purchasing power continues to go to the next
Right.
generation over time. Now answering, indirect, this is the big one, right? I think we've talked about this quite frequently internally and even with some of our client partners, which is how do you actually track ROI on brand? It's almost a funny question. I said this to actually one of our client partners in a QBR meeting I was like, how do you track the ROI of your mom? And then he was flabbergasted. He looked at me like crazy.
What?
So then I had to switch the analogy because it was like, okay, maybe that's too wide. It doesn't make sense. So then I went to, what is the ROI of parenting, right? So if you take it in a very simple sense, your mom and your dad had an impact on you, but what is the ROI of that? Let's now take it to social media terms. What is the ROI of a race car for a professional driver? Millions of dollars.
Sure.
For me, maybe a messed up car and $5,000 in injury tax claims.
Yeah.
Or insurance claims. For LeBron James, of basketball, the return is tremendous versus for somebody like me, who is not that great at basketball. Michael Jordan with the shoe. These are obviously sports references, but it even works in everyday normal people's lives too. If you're somebody who is very intricate and well-knowledge around computers, how valuable is this piece of device to you versus somebody like my mom who just uses it to check her email, right?
Yeah.
So I think the value of social media ROI is hard to give a core number to because it's brand.
Yeah.
And it's where everything is reverting to. And I think the core point of today's topic is now you can measure some of that brand
You can do direct tracking.
organic social media is the tracking standard.
Yeah.
If your content performs on social, it has an impact.
Right.
If you go to any of your source of purchase, whether it's Amazon, whether it's direct to consumer on your website, whether it's retailer, and you look at where your social media was winning and correlate that time frame to your sales, I will almost promise or guarantee you there's a correlation between it.
Definitely. So the way I look at it, there are 3 different ways to measure that ROI. So you have direct tracking, exactly what it sounds like. You're exactly able to see this person saw this Facebook ad, ended up in our store. We know this because we have their email on both of these places and we put them together, we see that. Then we have the indirect tracking, which is our engagement shot up with this post and also the sales of that exact product in that post shot up. They have to be correlated. That's indirect tracking.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, or somewhere overall, all of that, there are also so many other things that are impacted and that are results of your social efforts. This is going to be things like community building, making brand advocates out of your followers. We were talking a little bit about LLMs and AI just noticing your brand because you're posting more and more on social. So then again, there's some sort of result coming from that. And then long-term relationships like you were talking about, right? And this comes through social. If I see something on social all the time and I follow this brand, they're working with influencers I like, I just stay in tune with that brand. Maybe I haven't purchased in a long time, but the next time I see them, I have still remained a customer this whole time because I've just felt connected to this brand.
That's right.
And that's not something that you can directly track and say this month this happened, but it does matter and it is a result.
100. ROI used to be follow or like button. Now ROI is storytelling. It's content that converts. It relates to their audience. It builds trust. And to your point, it builds a community. And I think that's really where you win when you think about ROI on social.
Yeah, and then there's ways to get creative with how you show ROI to an executive or to the C-suite, right? Like one of the things that we're doing is whenever we do outbound engagement, and this is how you can measure ROI on outbound, is we'll take a look at how many impressions that comment got.
Yeah.
So let's say we leave a comment on someone and it got 1,000 impressions. Well, we could take a look at historical ad data and say, look, we're paying, $8, $10 CPMs for every 1,000 impressions. Well, we just got 1,000 impressions on this comment. So that value is worth $10 in media dollars, which you can correlate back. And then when you do that over a period of 30 days, now you're getting into the thousands of dollars of worth of value created out of thin air for the outbound engagement you're doing. So there are different creative ways, and that's just for outbound, right? There are creative ways to do this with influencers. Let's say, for example, an influencer creates 4 videos for us. Well, how much does a video production cost us typically? If it costs us $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000, let's say $1,000, well, that's $4,000 worth of value from a production standpoint created that we only paid this influencer, X amount or whatever. So there are different ways to get creative with how you showcase quote unquote ROI through social.
Same thing with the network of an influencer, right? Like you have added so much value by them posting that on their page that you can track and do all of the math and figure out how many followers do they have, how many followers do we have, how many more followers are we getting in front of, all this stuff.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, well, anything else that we have? We've talked about what execs should look for. We've talked about the history of going from pay to play to really organic, making a huge difference in the actual results. We've talked about what you can track and how you can track it. Am I missing anything specifically?
Yeah, I think people
on
want to hear about
ROI?
reporting cadence. How often should you be reporting on this ROI metric? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Do you send the execs, one pager at the end of every month? Is it what do you guys think?
This actually goes back to Nisha's question, which I guess I forgot to follow up on, which is should marketers be taking to up
Right.
leadership? And it relates directly to that. So what we are ultimately wanting to communicate is, I think to your point, marketers have been aligned with upper leadership that they know that we want to impact the bottom line, whatever that is, revenue, growth, brand, etc. But if we're aligned on the goal, why haven't we been aligned in the how? And I think that's where the breakdown ultimately occurs, is we're not sure how to really showcase that our social ROI is worth the investment. So to Keith's point of, the reporting cadence, what types of reports we should be showing, one, I think the way social media is changing because it is so reliant on social media production is you should be looking tactically at how your content is performing in the different pillars. So what we do here at Sociallyin is every time we start off with a client, we break our content strategy into the core different pillars. Now these pillars may have subsets, and that's how it should work. But the core pillars are a high level alignment of, hey, this is what we're talking about, this is how we're wanting to communicate with our audience. When they do that, we're tracking by every single post that goes out what pillar it falls under and how the community is engaging with that. Is it the type of content that they relate to? Is it the format of the content? Is it on what platform are they relating with? Because you have those different nuances. So us specifically, I think it's important to showcase leadership, the value of the creative pieces, because that's where the ROI exists.
Yeah.
So creative tracking, I think you can do that on a monthly basis. I mean, you can obviously do it by each post, but on a monthly basis is a good cadence. On a quarterly basis, I think you should focus more on the conversion metrics, right? Like I said, if your conversion isn't a direct purchase, what is that closest intent indicator that you can track? And you focus on optimizing for that conversion. We do that with a client of ours where they are selling in big retail locations like Walmart and Home Depot. And what we do for them is we try to track how many people that are coming to the website are going over to the retailer sites. How many people are interested in clicking over to learn more about their products. So I think it's ultimately based on the goal, but monthly for creative, because I think you can learn really quickly. For big conversion-based goals, quarterly, and then yearly, you should be looking at the correlation year over year to what you did on social. Kind of what we talked about earlier. If you see upticks, how did that span out in the year, and then measure that over year performance.
So basically what we've learned is ROI is something that can be tracked from social.
Yes.
There's a lot of it that can't be, but there's so much more than just the bottom line, the dollars. There is the community, all the other things that we talked about. But at the end of the day, it is something these days that you actually can track, find the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
they're getting better.
let's move into our next segment. Today we're going to talk about what's on your For You page. What do you bring to the table? Keith, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing this, and it kind of, going back to tracking ROI and all of that. On organic social, my feed has been blowing up with the Frontier Wild One Pass.
Oh, where you can
essentially
buy unlimited flights or whatever?
Yeah, you can buy a pass for, right now it's like $299, and then you get unlimited flights on Frontier for the next 20 months, right? So within
20 months is significant. That's almost 2 years.
2 years.
It's almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So to me, it's worth it. Now, I saw it on like a meme account someone posted, and then I went and Googled Frontier, and then I found the pass on Frontier, and then I ended up purchasing it.
Try explaining that to Frontier CEO. So I saw it on a meme account, and then I went here, and then I went here, like that, like that journey.
Facebook.
It's just
Yeah,
funny.
so I mean,
just
that's
talking
really
about
hard for them
social ROI.
to track.
It is,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's impossible to track.
But
the
what
fact
was
that-
it? Social media brand.
Yeah, organic social.
Exactly.
But just bringing it full circle, it goes back to what you were talking about indirectly. Obviously, they've been posting all about it, and you've seen it, and the numbers are going up. So the two things are related.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known if I didn't see it from this meme account.
Correlate.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
I didn't know until
Today's
you
the
told
last
me.
day to purchase.
I didn't know until you told me.
Today's the
Right,
last
so
day.
and then I ended up telling a group of my friends, and my friend also bought a pass.
That's right.
So just between us two that bought a pass, it's $600 in revenue from this one organic
Me.
social post.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is wild, but that's how it works.
Yeah,
And
I love
that's the funny thing is explaining, hey, a meme can have value
Yeah.
to an executive, and that's our job. That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
I mean, this is a great case study to just showcase people about how organic social can drive. Like, honestly, we should make a case study or something out of it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure. All right, do you have anything to bring to the table?
Mine actually relates to yours, which is my For You page trend that I've been seeing is with the marketing growth trend. So it's all these companies that are ultimately doing like a funny skit
Yeah.
of a social media manager or social media coordinator doing like telling somebody to do something weird or funny. You know, obviously we have memes on our page. It's funny at times, but they're literally doing it, and it's a skit on TikTok where they're like, when you're wanting to go viral, what do? You do some kind of something funny with the
Yeah.
marketing girls. So they're doing it with the marketing girls trend, but which is funny enough because to Keith's point, it ultimately goes back to social media, what marketing is bringing to the table, how they're communicating. It's maybe these funny viral things, but everyone's looking at what it takes to go viral. What it takes to go viral is you understanding the social media platforms and then correlating it back to ROI.
Right.
So.
What I'm bringing to the table today has nothing to do with social media. It just has to do with that I discovered, actually this was through a social post yesterday, that yesterday being September 3rd, was the last 8 o'clock sunset
Ooh.
in Atlanta, meaning
Damn.
that the days are getting shorter again. And I am a summer girl through and through. I love the sunshine. I love long days. I feel like I can do so much more. As soon as the sun sets, I'm like, it's bedtime. Like, my day's done. So, did you guys know
I
that
did not know.
fall is here? It is full force here. I guess last
Yeah.
week we talked about pumpkin spice.
I like it and I don't like it. It's a love-hate relationship because I like the cold, but I like to be super warm.
I like the cold, but I like to be super warm.
Yeah, I like it when it's cold outside, but I'm warm inside.
I like daylight, so I like when
Yeah, me
it's the
too.
longest amount of time of sun. Like in the core of summer when you're about to go to bed and you're like, it's like 9 o'clock and you're like, why is the sun
Still
still
light.
there?
Still warm.
Yeah, those
I
are
love
my
it.
favorites.
I
So
hate that.
I hate
9
when,
p.m. lights.
I hate when it's 5 o'clock and it's dark.
I do like that. I do
No.
like
I hate that.
It's actually fun because you're like, okay, cool.
But like, okay, when it's 5 o'clock and you're just got off work, it's already dark outside.
Right.
Do you feel motivated to like? I still have to go to the gym. I still have to make dinner. I still
Not
have to
as
walk the
much.
dogs.
I don't,
I'm
not
like-
as much.
I'm like, it's
I'd rather
bedtime.
do it when there's light out. Obviously, you still persevere and push through. But when it's dark out, I'm more like I want to go to my house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything. I just want to be cozy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of brings us into our next thumbs up, thumbs down, and we can argue a little bit more. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Bring us something to the table. What is yours today?
Mine, I'm going to still play off of all of the hype of Taylor and Travis getting engaged.
Okay.
So I personally have been excited for the football season. I think I mentioned on the last episode also, it's all I've been seeing, the fantasy
Yeah.
posts, the draft days that the all the people are getting together for. But I was looking forward to the next Super Bowl.
Okay.
So 2026 Super Bowl performance, thumbs up, thumbs down, Taylor Swift for Super Bowl performance.
Are you asking if she's gonna be? Are we guessing if she's the Super Bowl?
I'm
Halftime,
saying,
or
are you
do we want her
okay
to
with
be-
Taylor Swift being the halftime Super Bowl performance?
I support. I think that would be
Oh
epic.
wait, Taylor Swift would be the halftime show? They've already
So-
confirmed the
Yeah.
halftime.
No, they haven't confirmed who's performing yet.
It's gonna be Dr. Dre, Snoop, or was that last year?
No, last year was Kendrick Lamar. They have not confirmed who it is for this
Before
year's
that
Super
was
Bowl.
50 Cent, I think.
It was Eminem, 50 Cent. That was maybe 3 years ago, but that's when Dr. Dre and all of them did it. For
Oh,
2026
yeah.
Super Bowl, it's not confirmed. I'm just building off of all the hype that has
it
been
could
going
be
on.
Taylor Swift, I guess.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I'm
Couples
with it.
manifesting. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be great.
I wonder how the football fans feel. Let us know.
Okay, my thumbs up, thumbs down is Notion. I've been really into Notion. Doesn't have to be
Oh.
Notion specifically, but I want to know your thoughts on like a notes management tool. Do you use one?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it? How does your brain
Yeah, I
work?
use the Notes app on Apple.
Same.
And
Okay.
I have a daily journal. It's an app called Reflect that I use. Really awesome
Cool.
app. Been using it for the past 2 years. But Notion specifically, thumbs down because it's
Yay.
like so convoluted. Like there's just so much you can do with Notion, from the tables to
Yeah.
the integrations to like all of this stuff. It's just like I like the Notes app because it's simple.
Yeah.
I used to agree with you. I used to feel the same way. I'm not sponsored by Notion, but I just started playing around with it, and I also did feel overwhelmed the first time I got into it, because it was like, there's all these templates and there's so much you can do. So I just started from scratch. I didn't even look at the templates, which maybe I'm missing out on half of the goodness, but I was like, let me just see if this is good for me. Let me see if this will keep me organized. I'll just make my notes the way I want them to look. And so far, I am loving it because everything is in one place. I feel like in the Notes app specifically, it feels a lot like sticky notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like sticky notes. So a lot of people are using Notion for like workflow creation.
It's great,
and, like,
yeah.
you can move tasks around, and then like
I have shared notes with other folks, and yeah, we just are able to kind of work on it together.
Yeah.
And then because it has an app, I'm also able to access it on my phone. I can access it offline. It's great. I love it. But
I'll give it a thumbs up also, not for the exact same reasons as far as like note usage, because I don't use it personally. I use many other tools. I mean,
what do you use?
I use my notes. Actually, I use my reminders feature on my phone.
That's a good one.
I use Slack to-dos actually, which is odd, but I actually use the Slack to-dos. And then for us, a core part is Basecamp, which is where I try to keep things organized.
We kind of live
The
there.
one that I lived in the most for a while was actually Miro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Miro and then Figma were two very similar ones, and then I would only use it for aspects though. So what I realized about Notes, which is why I still give Notion the thumbs up, is for each person it's unique to how you operate, right? Like whatever works for you is what works for you, no matter the functionality of the tools.
Right.
I think Notion has done a good job in marketing. I think over time they've listened to their community well with the features they've incorporated to Keith's point where it became such a robust tool. And I think too, they've crushed it in general on marketing as an organization. They're still very startup-like mentality, but at the same time, I think they've really focused on brand over the years.
And they're
as they
shipping
scale.
features like nonstop.
Yeah, so I think I'll give it overall a thumbs up. I don't personally use it though.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just added AI to the tool, so now I used it the other day just to test it out, but you can record an entire call and it'll summarize the call for you, give you notes, and pretty basic, but very helpful. And yeah, I think you're right, both right, that they kind of stay on top of it. So very fun, very interesting. Anything else before we wrap it up today? Any last gems to drop? Any last thoughts?
No, I think that's it. I mean, there was a good episode about ROI and tracking, and I think there's a lot of value in what we talked about for the offline conversion tracking, the ways to get creative with how you show ROI, especially if you're on a social media team, right? Like that's kind of the repeated question over and over is like, what is this doing for the business? And you can get creative with different ways you showcase that. So I think overall a great episode.
I gave it a big side, not because, but I think overall what we touched on social ROI is really the core points of it. The reason I side is because of the after fact, which is how many people are still going to grasp what we're talking about and be able to turn around and implement it.
Sure.
And that's why ask questions in the comments, because if you have a specific problem or a specific use case, what we can actually do is give you an idea of how we at Sociallyin would think about social ROI for you and where are opportunities for you to start tracking social ROI.
Definitely. And definitely tune in for our next episode. We're going to be talking about Reddit, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a fun one. It has traversed? That's not what I was trying to say.
Changed?
It has evolved so much. There we go. Reddit has evolved so much, and we're going to be talking all about it. So make sure you tune in for our next episode. Until then, make sure you're commenting, subscribe if you haven't already. We're already on episode 4, so what are you doing? And like Koshal said, if you have any questions, if you are running a brand's social of your own, feel free to ask us questions on how you specifically can show ROI to your